watching news at Prime. Let's bring you this important conversation now. Amnesty International warning that South Africa is facing a crisis of corruption, crime and weak accountability. The organization says failures in the justice system are fueling gender-based violence, while whistleblowers continue to remain under threat. Amnesty International South Africa's Genevieve Quintal joining us now to talk to us about where this worry emanates. And Genevieve, good to have you here. Thank you very much for your time. We've just come from the State of the Nation address by the President, and part of what he spoke about was, I think it's called the Whistleblower Protection Bill that will soon be introduced before Parliament. It's part of the effort to try and deal with corruption and all of the bad that comes with it. Are you not reassured as Amnesty International by the President talking about things such as that?
Good evening, Coley. Thank you so much for having me. No, it's not that we're not reassured. And, you know, our statement came pre-SONA. It doesn't change post-SONA. When we're talking about the whistleblower legislation, I mean, the first time this came to light was during the Zondo Commission. It was a recommendation from the Zondo Commission that they needed extra protection for whistleblowers. They weren't provided with enough protection. The Justice Department then put out a discussion paper, which a number of organizations, including Amnesty International South Africa, made submissions on. This was 2022, Goli. We are in 2026, and we still don't have this updated legislation on the table. It's not new legislation. Nothing had to be drawn up from scratch. It was strengthening the current legislation we have, and yet it's still not on the table. But as Amnesty International South Africa, we're also calling, we believe we need more than just whistleblower protection. We've got it, it needs to be strengthened, but we have an issue with what we term human rights defenders not being protected in this country. This is anything from your activists, your journalists, lawyers, whistleblowers, anyone who is speaking out about wrongdoing in their space, in their community, are human rights defenders. And these people are being murdered. These people are being threatened for speaking out. And so we actually asking government to extend while we want the whistleblower legislation, the strength of the whistleblower legislation table, we're asking for extra protection for all human rights defenders. But Coley, we've been waiting so long just for the whistleblower legislation, and that's an issue for us.
Yeah. Can I engage you a little bit on your monitoring mechanisms, Genevieve? From the days of the Zondo Commission, we now sit with the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Alongside it is the ad hoc committee that's probing exactly or similar allegations. Do you think, as Amnesty International, as you've been doing your study of South Africa, particularly the areas we've touched on, the crisis of corruption, crime, and weak accountability, do you believe that all of these have either worsened post the Zondo Commission, or is there progress in seeing less and less of this corruption, weak accountability, and indeed crime?
It's a difficult one, Coley, because I don't want to say that nothing's been done, because we'll be fair, you know, some things have been done since the Zondo Commission. I think the president gave an update last year. We've seen a few prosecutions, etc. We've seen some changes in terms of the NP. I think the ID came about because of the Zondo Commission, etc. But it's also extremely slow, and we're also still seeing quite a few people sitting in positions of power in Parliament, etc., who were named in the Zondo Commission. Now we hear the Madlanga Commission looking at the exact people, the police, the law enforcement, who are supposed to actually be taking action against crime, taking action against corruption. We're sitting in another commission. And Coley, as you know, commissions you cannot prosecute based on what happens at a commission, right? So we can have these commissions, and it's great, we get all this information, but then what the information that comes out of the commission still has to go for investigation, then to the NPA for prosecution. And we've seen what's been happening with the NPA. We've seen what's been happening with the state capture cases. Now we're hearing about the corruption within law enforcement, within the police. Are these cases going to be investigated properly? I know the president, what was it, a week or two ago, after the first part of the Madlanga Commission's report or interim report has put together, there's a task team within SAPS that's supposed to be now looking at, people who have been identified in the commission. But you're asking the very people or the very institution, which we are hearing about, so broken, asking them to take action. And, it takes so long. Are we actually going to see that accountability? Or are we going to see that political hand? Are we going to see that interference that we hear so much about in these commissions taking hold as well? We can make all these promises and we hear all these things, but also we've got no clear timelines. A lot of the interventions that have been announced need budget. So it's all great to say these things, but how is it going to be done? The tangible thing about how is it going to be done? Otherwise, we're sitting like Zondo, how many years later, with a whole bunch of recommendations still not implemented?
Yeah. Here's perhaps a final question, and I'm hoping it helps us round up what we are seeking to see as South Africans. In the media, we are often accused of obsessing over high-profile court cases. And this could be a high-profile case involving a politician, former minister, or it could be a business person, former CEO of a company involved in corruption. In fact, it's even the exiting NPA head who almost has been at pains to point out to us that, yes, indeed, these high-profile cases are falling off, but it doesn't mean that we're not convicting people that are accused of egregious crimes in our courts, and those are being sent to jail. Why aren't you also focusing on those? So why am I raising it this way, or why am I framing this way? Are we seeking a teachable moment in the country where we say, here's a high-profile figure, this person has been accused of corruption with millions of rand, and today, watch him go to jail? Is that the moment we are looking for in order for people to actually check themselves and not be so brazen about corruption?
I think so, Koli. I mean, it comes down to setting a precedent. They say the fish rots from the head. And if those right at the top, the people who are actually calling the shots, and I think your interview before this with Mrs. Stofile from Salga again, the big hand at the top who makes the decisions, who asks the people. So it's all good and well. It's great. We're not saying that, but we should be all equal before the law, right? If I'm going to go to jail as a lowly official in a department because I did wrongdoing, and I should go to jail if I'm found guilty, the same should be for if you're a high-ranking politician, no matter who you are. Our constitution says everyone's equal before the law, but are we? Why must we be just satisfied that, people are getting prosecuted? But what about the masterminds? We could even take it back to cases like the murder of Babita Deokaran. Again, the big people, the masterminds behind all of this are sitting out there. No one knows who they are.
Yeah.
The small guys or the guys who actually committed the murder, amazing, great. They've been prosecuted, they're in jail. But we've got to set a precedent. And I think South Africans will take the story, take the president, take our politicians seriously, more if they actually is accountability for everyone, no matter who you are, whether you're the president or whether you're the secretary sitting in someone's office. If you are accused and found guilty of wrongdoing, you need to pay for your crime.
Pay for a crime and not cry ill health and get off on, what do you call it, medical parole. How many of those have we seen in the country? Thank you very much, Genevieve Quintal. She's from Amnesty International, South Africa.